The story begins at the Jiu-Jitsu Championship Finals. We see two fighters on the tatami, with only a minute left. When his niece enters university, the protagonist responds that the girl is barely starting elementary school. The dream sequence concludes as Song Hwan regains consciousness. His body is completely intact, as if nothing had ever happened. Past, he trembles, confused and wondering what happened, staring at his arms, which now appear completely healed. He then turns to the man beside him, who asks if Song Hwan has returned to his normal state. This man understands that our boy suffered immense pain at the hands of humans, so he brought him back to his place to help him recover. Although the man appears to be infected, he is able to speak and assures Song Hwan that he has nothing to worry about. They are on a raft, and the man hopes to catch some fish, even inviting our boy to join in. Do the same. Naturally, Seon Hwan hesitates and grows suspicious, clutching the infected zombie's clothing. The old man. He misinterprets this as a sign of aggression, believing that Seon Hwan has perhaps lost his mind and intends to attack him. Thanks to our protagonist's incredible background in jiu-jitsu, he easily subdues the man with an armlock, forcing him to experience extreme pain. Hilariously, Seon Hwan doesn't stop there. He gets up again and stomps on the dumb. Later, at a bar, they share a toast with a few drinks. His friend thanks him for everything, but the protagonist tells him not to get infected person, the very same one who had literally helped him. Finally, Seon Hwan realizes that this infected person can talk, but the story doesn't end there. It's not only that he can talk, but our boy can now understand others of his kind. By the way, do you remember when they mentioned they were going fishing? Well, it turns out it's even more fun. Because in the next scene, they're in a swimming pool. Basically, this old man is completely insane. Anyway, Seon Hwan doesn't waste any time and explains everything to him. The man is utterly shocked to learn that our boy can retain all of his memories from before he was infected. The worried father, not wanting to lose any more time, begs for directions to the nearest military base. The good thing is that it's easy to find because the nearby intersection points to the address. Songjan is eternally grateful and apologizes for wrecking the old man's arm. This causes the old man to emphasize a critical misunderstanding from Seongjan's perspective. None of the other infected can regenerate as efficiently as he can. Instead, they are forever trapped in their miserable, sentimental. He admits that life is easier now than when he was competing. Back then, he could barely afford formula, state, even after being torn to pieces. And that's sad, because our boy destroyed this, typing like a simple noodle. He guiltily looks away as the old man explains that Seong Hwan might be the one, the first person to retain their human memories, because none of the other infected are like that. Although they once walked the line of humanity, that is no longer the case. They have surpassed it. The old man points out that it's not only Song Hwan who possesses an incredibly fast regeneration factor, but he also retains his memories from before, indicating that he is literally built differently. Without wasting any time, Seong-an feels the urgency to leave for the sake of his daughter. Just mentioning his daughter makes the infected person question himself. Seong-gan, he really is infected. After all, if he were human, it would be difficult to trust him, because the infected naturally consider them a threat. The old man can't help him simply because he doesn't want to kill more of his own kind, meaning other infected. This boy is more human than zombie. Realizing that he is completely alone in this, Seon Hwan sits down and asks for help. With his coaching salary, the friend also thanks him for helping him get his excavator license and a job. This boy is more human than zombie. Realizing that he is completely alone in this, Seon Hwan sits down and asks for help. Point the way forward. But the old man makes one final offer, tempting the boy to abandon his daughter's safety, and simply live out his days with the others. Without hesitation, the man turns down the offer. Once again, the old man analyzes that Seonggan's human empathy and his need to protect his daughter might be the cause of his own downfall and could lead to the destruction of the infected. Unfortunately, his answer does not please the old man, who deems him too dangerous and declares that Seong Hwan must be eliminated at once. But our boy is quick and, deciding that arguing is pointless, jumps into the water, trusting that he can swim to the other side. But here's the problem. The moment Seon Hwan surfaces, he's stunned. All this time, the water was teeming with other infected, waiting to attack. Now that they have a clear signal, they plan to kill him by surrounding him. Seon Hwan scans his surroundings, unaware that one of the infected is slowly approaching from behind. Now he can take his family out to dinner at least once a week. Meanwhile, the creature lunges to grab him and actually manages to knock him down. The old man laments that Songgan ultimately makes a terrible decision, refusing to support his own people and instead ensuring his own survival. Doom awaits, but then he's surprised by the outcome. Our boy isn't in danger, he times the danger. Do you remember that coward who attacked him? Yeah, the guy is going to regret that his head is still attached to his body as Seongan channels all his love for his daughter. Seonhwan makes his message crystal clear as he crushes the creature's head. If anyone dares to stand in his way to save his daughter, he will kill them all. The ugly bastards approach the handsome man, father, while he literally crushes the brains of one of his own men. The infected are so intimidated by his gaze that his mere presence forces them to retreat and go back to eating fish in the pool. With those enemies neutralized, Songhwan turns to the square-headed old man, who is initially disappointed, but he starts to laugh nervously, finding the situation amusing. Our boy is even willing to tear off. Protagonist arrives at his house. His little daughter, Mina, runs to greet him with open arms. He picks her up and thinks, another arm if necessary to even the score. The old man emphasizes that if Seonghwan rushes, he might hilariously fail to save his daughter. It turns out our guy stole the old man's clothes, as in punishment, and even uses one of the infected as a chair. He really won them all over without even trying to. The infected parade in front of Songan, who learns from the old man that heading directly to the military base is not a good idea. Apparently, there's a dangerous figure there who could cause problems. While they talk, the zombies face their own existential angst, but even so, they don't want to end up like the broken arm of his captain. Meanwhile, Seonhwan inquires further about this dangerous individual, a particularly brave yet foolish zombie. Brave but stupid, attempts to surprise him by running directly towards him. Seongjani doesn't even flinch, kicks him down, steps on him, and contemplates whether he should escalate the punishment to something even more humiliating than a water dance. He also finds it absurd that this zombie would come running at him like that, as if it would make any difference whatsoever, who is so happy that he would gladly live this life again. While playing, his daughter puts him in a flying armbar. He pretends to. The captain explains that not all of the infected possess the same level of intelligence. Basically, they are just stupid. However, some, like the captain, can follow orders with perfect precision, but most just follow their instincts and their hunger. Instincts and their hunger. These guys don't even think, and they attack members of their own kind. They're dumber than a goldfish. Furthermore, the captain suspects that the infected are attracted to Songban, likely due to his scent. Our boy doesn't respond, simply observing the old man, who is trembling with fear and begging to be trusted one more time. Returning to the main topic of their conversation, the old man wants to provide an alternative route instead of attacking the base directly, but Seonhwan doesn't care and leaves with a chilling warning. Anyone who stands in his way to his daughter will be mercilessly executed by his own hand. Upon leaving the base, he encounters with a group of infected, but they don't even try to fight, because Songban basically tells them to back off, telling them to get lost. On his way, he encounters something strange, a giant gorilla, an abnormal one, that is devouring. Give up, telling her that he can't keep up with her anymore. After playing, the three of them cuddle together in bed. The father, human limbs as if they were a delicacy. Seonhwan recalls the old man's words. Do you remember him saying that? Was there someone dangerous? Apparently, it's this damn gorilla. The creature attempts to communicate, warning Seonhwan not to invade its territory. Ever the diplomat, our boy responds with a palm strike directly to the gorilla's face, knocking it to the ground. Seonhwan politely expresses, in his own way, that it should leave. In the next scene, we see a group of, quote, infected individuals having a dance party in a club. They really are different from other zombies, having so much fun. One goes wild and starts moving uncontrollably. There are zombies dancing sensually and thoroughly enjoying every second. You probably weren't expecting this in a zombie apocalypse story, were you? The party ends in the most literal way possible, when the furious gorilla throws Seonghwan against the walls, crushing the infected along the way. Our boy, he's really getting pummeled. Slamming into the wall, he takes such a hit that it knocks out all of his teeth. Perfect. The gorilla attempts to pulverize his face in the next attack, and Seonghwan recalls wishes that this ordinary and happy day could continue forever. Suddenly, his daughter's voice calls out to him, telling him to blog he had read about how to defeat a wild animal. In it, he learned to apply jujitsu techniques against a creature the size of a gorilla. He strategically uses his body, attempting a rear naked choke, but it doesn't work. Seongan is struck from every direction. The wall is destroyed as the creature pummels him brutally. With each blow, Songan recalls the old man's words. that he possesses a near-divine healing factor, unlike that of others. The gorilla slams him against the ground, but this is precisely the position that the former jiu-jitsu champion was aiming for. Knowing that the remaining infected are vulnerable and cannot regenerate in the same way, Songan. He aims for the creature's arm, knowing that once it's broken, it won't be a problem anymore. With what little strength he has left, he puts everything into one decisive movement, and instead of just breaking the gorilla's arm, he severs it. Straight from the bone, the arm flies off as the gorilla experiences anguish and shock, unable to comprehend what has just happened. A victorious Songan stands over his defeated opponent, looking down at the beast. Wake up. Half asleep, he tells her to sleep a little longer, and that they can play later. The girl insists, who growls heavily, as if saying he wants to fight even more. But it's not that our boy is afraid of another round. 2. He prepares to stretch out and inflict more damage. Then, his eyes fixate on something, 2 small children screaming, and they run to protect their guardian. They embrace the gorilla, and the scene provokes an emotional reaction in Seongban. You see, just like with this gorilla, he remembers his true mission, to protect his family. So, instead of killing the creature, he rushes back at full speed. In the next scene, he has already arrived at the military base, making sure that everything will be all right as long as he can find his daughter. At first glance, there are 2 guards outside, and it's plausible that there's one inside. This means the smartest approach would be to enter undetected. Our resourceful protagonist, Hyuitsu, throws an infected creature over the barbed wire, and using its body as an anchor, Sunhwan slides inside without taking any damage. The soldiers begin searching for the source of the noise, becoming distracted. Observing the infected creature on the wire, our boy seizes the opportunity to apply a stealthy chokehold. It's the final minute of the fight. Our protagonist is in a tough spot, sweating profusely. The scoreboard shows a 5-point difference, asking him how he can say that, considering the situation they're in. When the protagonist finally opens his eyes, he sees a bizarre being, and threatening to end the man's life if he doesn't reveal information about Lee Pyongo. The soldier, without. However, he resists by refusing to give in and attempting to fire his weapon. Initially, Songan reminds him that the bullet will never hit him, but the soldier fires regardless, which is a huge problem because the shots could attract the attention of other soldiers. Letting him go, Seonggan awaits his response. The stubborn soldier insults him, but the only thing running through the father's mind at that moment is the cherished image of his beautiful daughter and his beloved wife. As I mentioned, the gunshot attracts the soldiers, who quickly gather together to capture the infected immediately. But what they don't realize is that at that moment, Seonghwan's blood boils with fury, and he directs his anger towards the miserable people who stole away the 2 people he loves most. While these soldiers tremble with fear, Songhwan, moving at incredible speed, manages to grab one of them and smashes his face against the ground. He squeezes the guy's neck with such force that his eyes look like they're about to bulge out of their sockets. But I suppose this is just horrible. Behind his daughter, he quickly puts his hand over the creature's face to protect Mina. Then, he grabs the average power fantasy fulfillment for the fans who follow these types of stories. You can't say the same. For the soldier, who is having a hard time as a demon glares at him, demanding they release his daughter immediately. With the soldier pinned down, Seonghwan bellows out his daughter's name. Just then, one of the soldiers quickly approaches, pointing a gun at him and questioning why he's searching for his daughter in such a reckless way in this place. Our guy calmly gets to his feet and explains that the man he just took down kidnapped his daughter and brought her here, so he's here to get back what he lost. Judging by the look from his right eye, the soldier worriedly asks if Seonggan is still human. Faced with this, our protagonist recalls the same question that the old infected captain asked him, whether he is neither one thing nor the other. Seonggan no longer searches for an answer and simply insists on his demand to get his daughter back. Once again, the soldier remains distrustful and has no reason to believe the man's words. With his temper at its limit, Seonggan remembers the piece of wood from the ground, using it as a weapon to beat the creature back. Looking at a broken mirror, he sees his last, exhausting words of the scumbag who threatened to sell his daughter for money. For the captain, nothing. This makes sense to him, and he is perplexed. The miserable criminal trembles with fear as Seong-an provides evidence of his crimes. Words, requesting that the captain check his identification badge, but it isn't there because it was removed during the fight. The soldier frantically gets up to try and take the commander's proper position, reminding him that this man attacked and infiltrated the base. He quickly tries to fire his weapon, only to realize that it's not working. The commander takes the gun from him, disappointed that a sergeant is so useless with his own weapon. The guy tried to shoot, not even realizing the safety was on. And to make matters worse, the fact that this idiot recklessly tried to open fire in a field full of allies just proves his stupidity. Meanwhile, a private quickly informs the commander about Li Yongbo's situation. They witnessed him returning with a little girl, something Seonghwan immediately confirms, pleading to see his daughter as his emotions overwhelm him. The reflection transformed into a monster. The mirror shatters, and more creatures enter the room. One of them, soldier, asks him to calm down, explaining that the deceitful sergeant had falsely reported that he would be taking the Moses girl with her family. Upon hearing this, Seonggan roars in denial, informing the soldiers that he is the girl's father. The soldier offers a solution, suggesting that going with the sergeant would be the wisest course of action, as he will lead him to his daughter. Then the other soldier becomes completely enraged and immediately orders his soldiers to kill the man. Returning, paying attention to the wretch, Seonggan prepares to tear him to pieces. The commander intervenes, reminding him that they intend to help him by listening to him, because if he doesn't cooperate, he will only delay reuniting with his daughter. Furthermore, the commander begins to, understanding the situation, he realizes what needs to be done, and immediately summons the men who followed the sergeant during that day's operation. The two soldiers who step forward quickly confirm that Seonghwan's words are true, and they discover and rescue a girl from the store, unaware of the complete story behind what happened. The commander didn't even receive this report, as the incompetent sergeant apparently wanted to. Attacks, but he manages to pin it to the ground with a hold. He wonders if these things can even be knocked unconscious, handle everything himself, without returning the girl to the base. But there's more. It seems the sergeant did what? He went off on his own several times without informing the base. Upon hearing this disgusting piece of trash acts as if he were fulfilling his duty by being proactive. However, the commander quickly humiliates him, asking him why he refused to inform the base. The sergeant completely explodes with emotion, acting, this time as if Seonggan was plotting to accuse his superior officer. While he's complaining, Seonghwan does everyone a favor by throwing a punch straight into his mouth, knocking him to the ground and putting an end to his boasting. With the guy completely knocked out cold, the scene cuts to our protagonist undergoing a thorough physical examination, looking more muscular than ever before. The soldier admires Seonghwan's unique physique, noting the complete absence of even a single wound. The soldier apologizes for resorting to such extreme measures, but explains that they have no other option than to perform comprehensive examinations in order to ensure there are no bite marks. Seonghwan is also provided with an eye patch to temporarily conceal his unusual eye. Applying all his strength, he separates the head from the body. Sok is left wondering if he just removed at first rejects it, insisting that his eye functions perfectly. The soldier explains that, if he reveals it, someone might try to attack him. Surprisingly, no one has done so yet. Understanding where this is going, where this is headed, our protagonist accepts and continues walking alongside the soldier. He learns that the search for his daughter will begin soon, immediately after Lee Bongo's trial. Although Siwon distrusts Sue because of her involvement with the sergeant, he considers saving his daughter to be a higher priority. Just as he asks about the details of the trial, they both hear gunshots and quickly move away from the windows. Si Suning realizes that, apparently, Leongo has gone completely insane and is throwing grenades in an attempt to kill everyone. This is definitely strange, because the sergeant should be unconscious in the infirmary, but then he understands what's happening. Suming sees a vehicle, leaving the base at top speed. Our guy doesn't waste any time and leaps out the window, landing safely. While he watches the sergeant escaping at full speed, Seonghwan pursues the man, knowing that this time he can't someone's life, but the head on the ground continues to move, and he realizes that it wasn't human. While he's comforting Lu's his daughter, one of the soldiers quickly catches up to him on his motorcycle. Suming tells him to remain at the base, but instead of obeying, our boy jumps on the motorcycle, begging Sumin to speed up and not look back. Sumin points out that the motorcycle will be slower with two people, but Seonghwan is determined to get involved in this mission. Over the radio, an official statement from the commander is broadcast. Sumin explains the situation and how he is pursuing Lee Kyongo. Just as the commander gives an order, the transmission starts to break up. The signal degrades into static as Sumin follows the instructions and continues the pursuit to stop the sergeant. Getting closer and closer, Sumin tells him, Seonghwan, to shoot the car's tires using the rifle on his back. Seonghwan aims, but misses the first shot. Shot due to his inexperience, although he assures them that he will not miss the second time. Instead of listening to the boy, the soldier stops the motorcycle and aims to shoot himself. Unfortunately, he also fails, stubbornly refusing to give Sion Juan a chance to shoot. Finally, the soldier connects with his first shot, hitting the tire of the. His daughter wonders where they are, and he doesn't remember anything about how they arrived at that shopping center. Peeking outside, he sees that the vehicle, causing it to skid on the curve. Thanks to this, they get back on the motorcycle to continue the pursuit. They make a sharp left turn to pursue the target. But just as they are about to reach him, the scoundrel is already waiting for them with a grenade in his hand. The guy throws the grenade, but Suin's divine aim manages to stop it mid-air, preventing their deaths. With the sergeant out of options, he is pathetically defenseless as our guy tries to pounce on him to finish him off. But, in a surprising twist, a van hits the guy, delaying his demise. Once again, the sergeant's accomplices emerge from the car to save him. Apparently, these individuals are involved in the scandal concerning the children. Unfortunately, Sumin realizes there are too many of them to confront. He considers his strategy. He could fire warning shots and wait for backup, or prioritize taking action himself. The soldier faces reality, knowing that no reinforcements are coming, and that Seonggan must have been seriously injured a moment ago. His best option now is to shoot out the tires of the van, and place is swarming with those creatures. One of the creatures, wearing only shorts, is dancing. Then find a place to conceal himself. He does just that, waiting behind his motorcycle for an opportunity. Appropriate. His plan is perfect in theory, except he forgot one critical factor. The zombies, having made so much noise, have attracted a large group right in front of him. The scene briefly flashes back to when the soldiers were being informed on the vulnerable points of the infected. Managing hordes of zombies is not a game. They must be smart and damage the brain. Hitting that area stops movement, and if they destroy the nerves of the cervical spine, the infected dies completely. The only way to escape a horde of zombies is by attempting a suicidal maneuver with a grenade. That's how desperate the situation has become for the loyal soldier. Clutching the grenade, Sumin trembles, while keeping up his brave facade. He intends to detonate the explosion at the moment the zombies are most concentrated, hoping that Seonggan will handle the aftermath. But to their surprise, for some reason, the infected are rapidly transforming into dancers. Sumin is genuinely stunned and wonders what the hell is happening. To the rhythm of imaginary music, the protagonist runs towards him and knocks him out with a single punch. Carrying his daughter, he flees as he thinks he must have gone crazy from the fear of death because he can't believe he's seeing these guys dancing instead of eating their brains. Even more surprisingly, the undead appear to show expressions, but for what exactly? It's as if they are desperately trying to please someone or something. It's not a ritual, but an act motivated by literal fear of death. The infected are genuinely terrified and would rather stay intact than be torn to pieces. And yes, intact is literal. Even though they are dancing frantically, Suming finally spots the captain of the infected in the distance. This one has come for our boy Seong Hwan, who rises to his feet. Slowly, more enraged than before, the captain sees his bloodthirsty gaze and lowers his head in respect to him, his superior. Meanwhile, Sumin is confused, not understanding why the infected are suddenly retreating. Suddenly, instead of explaining anything to her, Songgun takes back his eye patch and asks about the location. The soldier begins to wonder if this guy has lost his memory or something, so he gives him a summary of what happened with Lee Pyo. A difference of 5 points. He just needs to hold on for 15 more seconds. His opponent attempts a submission hold, applying. A horde of infected chases after them. Running through a hallway, he finds an exit door and quickly shuts it. Pyo. Apparently, this revelation causes intense pain in Seonggan's mind, and all of his memories come back. Suddenly, he recalls the pursuit of Unatic. They were so close to catching him. On the other hand, Suming, he spots a figure in the distance. It's not an infected person, but a woman and, presumably, her daughter, begging to be saved. Moving forward a bit, Seonggan learns from the woman that they were attacked by a horde of infected. They plead to be taken to a safe haven. But, of course, our guy can't just do that because of his own mission. The woman pleads, pointing out that she and the girl won't be able to survive on their own. Accepting the situation, our protagonist prioritizes their safety over his own and instructs his Suming to escort them back to the shelter, while he ventures out alone to find his daughter, a perilous plan, as even Suming recognizes it won't be an easy feat. Therefore, Sion Juan requests all available information regarding the van he spotted, hoping to track it down. Suming then provides precise details about the van's model and emphasizes that all the men were sporting centipede tattoos. He reiterates and blocks the exit with a sofa. To relieve some of his tension, he notices a soldier sitting nearby with a large rifle. Meanwhile, dangers of traveling alone. Abruptly, the woman interjects, inquiring whether those were the same men who abducted her daughter. When Seon Hwan confirms this fact, she reveals with horror that her own daughter was also kidnapped by the same people. Realizing that she might have clues, he asks her for any information that could help him track them down. The woman also points out that it is possible that Mina is actually at the safe house. Apparently, the purpose of buying and trafficking children is to later stage a rescue. In fact, she mentions that only a few children were purchased just a few days ago. Seon Hwan breaks down and frantically asks about her daughter, describing her pigtails and the sweatshirt she was wearing, pink, as an example. Sadly, the woman remains unaware, as the children frequently swap clothes at the shelter. She suggests they check the shelter first before proceeding with the mission. Songgon agrees with the suggestion, although Suin emphasizes that she is taking a risk by trusting the words of a stranger. Nevertheless, the risk matters very little compared to his daughter's safety, even if it means facing great danger. So the group decides. As they get acquainted, Seon Hwan explains his situation to the soldier. Because he has no memory of the events that led to this apocalypse, to head to the shelter together, arriving with the woman who introduces them. Apparently, there are some entry procedures that must be followed. Well, it's the same as last time, being stripped naked. Funny, it seems like Seong Hwan is already getting used to this. The inspector is impressed by our boy's physique. At first, Song Hwan takes it as a compliment for being unharmed, but seeing that the old man is confused, he realizes that he's actually impressed by his 16 inches of poison. The inspector wants to remove Seong Hwan's eye patch, but our boy grabs his hand, believing that they have already fulfilled the instructions. Unfortunately, this could be a problem for Min, because revealing his eye will generate suspicions. Songgon argues that he already went through the body search, so there shouldn't be any more doubts. This guy is so crazy that he puts a gun to Min's head, insisting on checking the eye patch at all costs. But the old man forgets that he is dealing with two young men, especially since one is a jujitsu master. Songgon knocks him down. Zombies. The soldier summarizes the situation for him. Almost 80% of humanity has been transformed into flesh-eating monsters, to the ground, leaving him in a position where he can no longer threaten anyone. The old man is speechless and wonders what it's happening. Seonggan explains that he is simply reacting generously, considering he had a gun pointed at him. In fact, if he hadn't cushioned the fall at the end, if he hadn't broken his fall at the end, his skull would have been shattered. While this fight unfolds, the other followers emerge to stop the attackers. The elder emphasizes that there won't be any problems as long as Seon Hwan removes the patch. His men threaten to shoot him if he doesn't obey. They remind him again that the only way out is to remove the patch. Now, with three elders pointing shotguns directly at him, Songgon understands that he could use his divine regeneration to subdue them all. But the problem is that he would be exposed as infected, and he doesn't want that to happen. That's why he nervously waits for a miracle. Finally, the miracle arrives in the form of the woman who brought them here. He reminds the elders that this man saved his life. The captain of the elders insists that he remove the blindfold. Banned. In the end, our protagonist decides to give in and takes it off, but with a twist. Yes, he takes it off, but he doesn't open his eyes. Meet. So Sehon Hwan insists that the soldier allow him to use a transmission device. He is worried about his claiming that he lost them in an accident. That's very cunning, and he even acts insecure about it, so he defended so fiercely. The old man is disappointed because all of this could have been avoided had he spoken up sooner, from the beginning. Regardless, Seon Hwan only wants to see Mina, but the old man becomes angry, saying that the children are sleeping and shouldn't be disturbed. With him out of the picture, the woman apologizes on his behalf, explaining that the old man is stubborn and prefers to do things his own way. Seon Hwan understands that he, too, could have handled the situation with more tact. Following their instructions, he decides to wait until morning to check on the shelter. In the following scene, both Sumin and our male lead are placed in their room. The soldier recommends to take turns keeping watch every 2 hours, believing that it's unwise to trust strangers. It's best to be cautious, just in case. Perhaps. Seon Hwan agrees and tells the soldier to try and get some sleep first, because he doesn't feel like sleeping. Sumin accepts and asks to be woken up in 2 hours. After a while, our protagonist realizes something he doesn't, wife, and desperately wants to contact her. Of course, it's not as simple as the soldier just using his phone to call, feel the need to sleep, and he hasn't even blinked. At first, it seems like an effect of the stress, but then he thinks that it must have something to do with his powers. Bored, Songan decides to take a walk, and quickly remembers he's on night duty. To be cautious, he draws on his minion's eyelids to make it look like he's still awake. Anyway, he goes out on his own and sees the same girl as before. She throws the ball to him, asking him to throw it back. Although he understands the little girl's feelings, Songan thinks it's better for her to sleep, but the little girl is stubborn and knows that he will be leaving tomorrow. Giving in to his weakness for children, our beloved protagonist accepts. Play with her for 10 minutes, and during their playtime, he learns the 7-year-old girl's name, Milon, who is the same age as Mina. This makes Seongan wonder if the three of them should play together someday. The girl is very excited to share in the game, and their conversation continues for another 10 minutes. Although Milon wants to keep playing, the adult in charge emphasizes that sleep is more important, picks her up in her arms, and decides to take her back to someone. He needs satellite communication equipment, so they have to go up to the top floor. It's the only way. Her mother. To Songan's surprise, the woman is not actually Mion's mother. Now that he thinks about it, he never treated her like his own daughter right in front of him, so it makes sense that Milon is one of the rescued girls. The poor girl pleads Songban the opportunity to sleep with him. Seeing him reminds her of her own father, and she wants to share that affection with him. The words are heartbreaking and trigger a flood of memories in Seongan's mind. Do you remember the night when they slept together? Mina was playing and said exactly the same thing. She was about to become an elementary school student, and even so, he wanted to sleep next to his father. Her adorable and loving face reminds him so much of Mina that Seong Hwan accepts Mong's request, and in the following scene, both of them are shown sleeping in her bed. The next morning, it's time for breakfast. There's plenty of food, and the woman takes care of serving it. Sumin notices that these people cultivate their own vegetables and even gather resources from the mountains. They've made it this far, thanks to the elderly. In fact, most of the group consists of older people. The worrying thing is what they will do to reach the military base. Song Hwan asks the soldier to use the satellite communication device just one time, in the event of a crisis, because they are so fragile. As they sit down to eat, the soldier reveals that there will soon be counting the people makes it likely they'll find Mina among them. Seon Hwan is filled with hope and agrees to the plan. Just as he's about to thank Sumin for her efforts, tragedy strikes. Sumin's face suddenly falls onto the table, and her bowl crashes to the floor. The atmosphere is filled with terror. The elders stare intently, like falcons. It turns out they had planned this all along, and this seemingly kind woman is actually the most psychotic of them all. At that moment, Song Hwan regrets not having followed the soldier's advice. Unfortunately, there's little he can do while the body succumbs to the effects of the food. In the end, our protagonist falls unconscious. In the next scene, he opens his eyes and sees an infected person devouring a limb. The crazed infected turns around to lunge at his face, but is restricted by the chain holding him back. Seongan is furious, but I'm honestly glad. Our best boy, Suming, is still alive. It's good that the infection can't reach them, to make sure his wife is okay. The soldier agrees, but only after making our guy practically beg him, least not yet. The soldier points out that they are in a terrible, but still salvageable, situation. After all, if the elders truly wanted to end their lives, they would have already done so. For now, the best course of action is to wait and observe. To Seongan's horror, he watches the woman emerge from the shadows, declaring that she was tired of the elders who didn't know what they were doing. Furthermore, she is apparently the psychotic mastermind who has been waiting for the perfect opportunity to massacre them. The soldier offers him a way out, promising to overlook his crime if he returns to the base with them. However, the psychotic woman remains unconvinced, pointing out that even the army prioritizes the rescue of the children and doesn't care about anyone else. In fact, these miserable people had already attempted to contact the military. She believes that it is better to negotiate with them and cooperate with their group. Seon Hwan is disappointed and asks whether his story about the rescued children was also a farce, a claim she confirms is untrue. Upon hearing this, he begs for his daughter's return. The woman is initially stunned before erupting into derisive laughter. When they get to the rooftop, Seon Hwan presses his ear against the door to check if there are any zombies, ridiculing Song Hwan for having believed in such a ridiculous lie. Giving him a threatening glare, she tells him that he isn't, gathering the children solely to save their lives. When Sehwan boldly inquires about her true motivation, the woman recounts a story, or rather, a theory, concerning the children's bodies, which are completely immune to the infected. Based on that twisted logic, the psychotic woman decided that, if she could only feed her daughter children, one day she would return to being human. And yes, that chained girl devouring a chunk of meat is actually her own daughter being held captive. He watches her with admiration while his min yells at her for being ridiculous and stupid. The woman remains unmoved, claiming that he only appears foolish to others. But for someone like Seongban, the situation is very similar. He is also desperate to save his daughter. And then, and it pains me to say this, our protagonist sees the same football from the night before, the one he used to play with Mom. Fear, denial, and despair wash over him. Seeing MN's face, he hesitantly asks what became of all the children from the shelter. In response, a lot of pressure. The boy withstands the pain, holding on with all his might. With only 10 seconds remaining, the pain is on the other side. However, the soldier isn't afraid. Even if there are zombies, he has a damn AK-47. Psychotic cultist explains that she is simply doing her job by feeding her daughter, nothing more than a sacrifice. Her words make Seonghwan tremble as he proceeds to ask a terrifying question. What happened to Mong? The woman. He looks at him with amusement, pointing out that he didn't even know the girl's name, and implying that she's already dead. Seonghwan's world falls apart, and he becomes completely enraged, screaming at the top of his lungs in an attempt to break the chains. But before he can act, the psychotic cult leader is quick and puts a machete to his head with an expression of satisfaction. The horrendous scene once again awakens a memory in his minor accomplice, recalling when he helped the sergeant, Lee Yongo, along with all of his crimes. Every time the sergeant acted independently, without informing the base, he scolded him. Although Sumin wanted the children to seek safety at the base, the sergeant opposed the suggestion each and every time, believing it was a waste of time. Throughout this time, Suing had to accept things as they were, following orders as the world descended into despair. He suppressed his own critical analysis of everything that occurred, and he insists that Seonghwan open the door, pointing to his injured leg, which restricts his movement. Meanwhile, almost the same thing happened to his companions. Everyone stopped thinking and simply followed orders until the day came when Songban infiltrated the base, enraged as he searched for his lost daughter. It was at that moment that the soldier felt he needed to break free from this cycle of being just a cog in a large machine. He didn't want to remain silent any longer and wanted to take action regarding the situation. That's why he testified in favor of Seonggan and supported his cause before the commander. In this way, the Bostock soldier thought that perhaps, after redeeming himself through his actions, he could finally find atonement for all the things he had blindly allowed to happen. But in the end, this woman had her way and deceived them as if they were simpletons. Instrument. The situation has truly become a disaster for him. By the way, at this point, she has already taken him outside and even offers Sumin the chance to stay at the shelter, as long as she follows his orders. But all he could think about were his mistakes. Juan had warned him dozens of times not to trust a stranger, only for him to fall into the trap of eating the food they offered. Our boy is fooled by this idiot's words, and the girl senses that something is wrong. This foul soldier doesn't seem. This realization reduces him to a state of complete terror, and he feels enormous guilt for his actions. When it starts, reduced to tears, the woman is surprised. To further mock him, she brings in an entire audience to laugh at him while he cries pitifully. Suin has completely lost his mind and continues to apologize for his endless mistakes, while the cult leader greatly enjoys his pathetic state, beating and humiliating him, reminding him that he must maintain his previous facade of a strong soldier. When she's done with him, she lets her old bastard step all over him. But in the state he is in, Suin doesn't even feel the pain. All he feels is immense guilt as he crawls on the ground. He finally mentions Songban's name, apologizing for having hurt him so badly. The man could have easily stopped the sergeant, yet Sumin didn't even report it to the base, informed the base. The cultists, upon seeing him, believe his mind is likely completely shattered, blindly due to the situation he's in. The mention of Songban's name causes his pile of bones to regenerate and maintain its form. Trustworthy, but despite her protests, her father tells her to hide behind the soldier. He then opens the door, regenerate and maintain its shape. By the way, it's implied that our boy's flesh was torn right. After being struck by the machete, He's literally regenerating from nothing as he crawls around like a rabid beast. The cultists are terrified, wondering what the hell they're dealing with, and the old man points out that he's a monster, so they do what they know best and start shooting at him. The bullets pierce his body, but, at this point, what good are they doing? Xionghuan's superhuman regeneration is on full display before the eyes of Suiying, who finally connects the dots. You see, the infected man who was shooting from a distance when everything began, it was actually him, and now he's transformed into an unstoppable beast of madness, ready to kill anyone. Anyone who stands in his way of saving his daughter will be slaughtered, but first, he's going to massacre every single one of those bastards. Our protagonist says he must get home no matter what. With a terrifying look, he declares that he has guests and that he must welcome them. One of the cultists attacks the protagonist with a blade that, slightly, and peeks out, only to find a whole group of zombies having a party on the rooftop. That treacherous, quickly heads toward his abdomen. He shouts for the protagonist to die, but to the man's surprise, the boy doesn't seem to react after being stabbed. His eye slowly turns towards the man. At that moment, the attacker begins to back away, stuttering, and suddenly screams in agony. Soldier Suming cries as he observes. While the woman remains indifferent, with a swift movement, our young man grabs the man by the head and lifts him up. He picks him up with his mouth, as if he were an animal, bites down hard, and throws him mercilessly against the priest's ground. The other cultists panic, and the woman screams for them to tie him up somewhere. One of the occultist grabs a gun and shoots the young man repeatedly. The bullets strike him in the chest, but he doesn't falter. One of the bullets hits him in the head, yet he continues to advance without hesitation. With a swift movement, our protagonist seizes the weapon from the thug with immense force and closes in menacingly. The man's eyes widen in disbelief, unable to comprehend what he's witnessing. Our young protagonist attacks the man, just as another cultist approaches from behind with a knife. Soldier finally reveals his true intentions by fatally shooting our boy in the stomach. Just as the blade is about to strike him, his friend intervenes, hitting one of the cultists and preventing the attack. Soon, the protagonist strikes down the old man with pure hatred. He decides to use his own mouth against the bully, tearing off his limbs with his mouth, like an animal. The protagonist stands up as everyone watches, and 3 of them have already been permanently eliminated. Soldier Sumin is completely paralyzed with fear, unable to utter a single word. Our young man approaches him with a blood-stained face and a gleaming eye, staring intently. Suddenly, a strange scream erupts from our boy's mouth, sounding unstable. His eye shines intensely, and he seems to be losing his mind. Control. The protagonist clutches his head with his hands, displaying immense pain, and emits a series of pained grunts as he struggles to maintain consciousness. Just then, our young protagonist approaches the soldier, who watches him, murmuring his own name as if trying to calm himself down. The boy asks him what happened and why he is in such a state. Suning thinks quickly and realizes he must explain everything before it's too late. With a trembling voice, the bastard has the audacity to smile after shooting an unarmed civilian. Seonhwan throws himself at him, attempts to begin telling the protagonist what transpired. The soldier reveals that the cultists were responsible for Mayan's destiny. The young man remains silent for a moment, processing this terrible information. He seems to be controlling himself, trying not to explode in anger again upon hearing the news. He soon uses his eye to look around, as if searching for something. He observes his surroundings and remembers the food served in the kitchen, and in a nearby container, some pieces of meat, with an expression of disgust on his face. He finally understands what they did to the children. He remembers the woman's statement about buying children to rescue them, and also that the little ones were immune and worth a lot. Money in the market. Returning to the present, our boy silences the remaining cultists with a lethal glare. In a fit of rage, he grabs one of the men by the tunic and effortlessly lifts him into the air. Then he stomps his foot on the raging ground. With the hooded figure in his grasp, he prepares to hurl the man. Brutally, he throws him, and the hooded man's body slams into another thug. Without wasting any time, our young man runs. Before he can fire a second time, he executes a jujitsu move with great skill, immediately gaining the upper hand. Towards the others, reaches one, and firmly grabs him. With a final strike, he throws him to the ground, his eyes filled with threateningly, he tells the woman to stop what she's doing immediately. She threatens him in return, saying that if he moves, his friend will pay the price. But the soldier shouts that he's okay, and that the real culprits are occultists. Our protagonist asks her what she wants, and the woman orders him to go back to the basement he was in before. He questions her. Why target humans when she could feed on the infected? The woman calls him crazy and asks if he wants to become infected by eating those creatures. With a serious expression, our protagonist seems to understand something important. His response: he confronts her, rhetorically asking if he even seems human to her. The woman is shocked by the question and can answer him. She stares at him, eyes wide, as a strange sound echoes throughout the area. Soon, creatures begin to emerge. After the protagonist infects the woman's friends, she can only watch in shock. Suddenly, the woman feels an immense pain in her eye and screams. But all that ninja and karate stuff goes out the window when your opponent is holding a firearm and doesn't hesitate to shoot you in the leg again. Desperately from the protagonist's surprise attack, we see the dark sky as only screams are heard. Desperate, lying on the ground, she says she can't become a monster to take care of her daughter, and reflects on the monsters, the infected, and the humans who hurt each other. Looking down at her, our young man asks what the difference is between her and one of the infected. With a lost gaze, she can only whisper the name of his beloved daughter, Mina. With a wicked smile, the woman asks if that's her daughter's name, just to provoke him. Our protagonist is shocked and wonders, how could she know my little girl's name? His friend thinks that he's hallucinating, but the boy realizes he never mentioned his last name. The woman remembers the child, and our young man remembers her, grabs her, demanding to know what he did with his daughter. He holds her tightly and screams, wanting to know where Mina is, while she cries. With a gun in her hand, pointing it at her own head with tears and a strange smile, she says that he should experience hell as well. A gunshot rings out, and red blood splatters across the protagonist's face. Our guy loses his grip, giving the bastard the perfect opportunity to get away to safety. Protagonist. The woman collapses to the ground, and our boy remains motionless. His hand begins to tremble violently. As he watches what she just did, Soldier Suming shouts out his name, warning him to be careful. Careful! Suddenly, one of the creatures launches itself from behind the protagonist, but before it can reach him, he uses a move from his combat style, easily disposing of the creature. Since he is accustomed to arm locks, this time he applies one to the creature's leg. With hatred, he exerts pure force on the creature's leg, breaking it and throwing it away, but another immediately attacks him. The protagonist prepares a sweeping attack with the leg, and with another movement, he leaps onto the monster. With these maneuvers, he knocks down the zombie, and, furious, he gets up and hits the zombie's face with a log, finishing him off instantly. With a dark look, he says that the woman was wrong about what hell truly is. The other monsters run furiously towards him. Our young man clenches his fist, preparing for the battle that is about to begin. He grabs one of the monsters by the hood and repeats that they are almost unbearable. Finally, time runs out. He persevered until the end and secured the victory. On the podium, and just like that, the powerful international jiu-jitsu champion is reduced to a complete mess. Wrong. With an acrobatic movement, he kicks him in the face with great precision and force. The impact, forcefully. Before he can even react, our protagonist easily takes him out. He then declares that a place without his beloved daughter Mina has already become a living hell. With an empty stare and a bleeding eye, he reiterates that this place is hell itself. Another monster attempts to attack him, but he dodges the attack and seizes the monster. He slams it to the ground, but more and more monsters begin to swarm him. Some even manage to bite him. His eyes, similar to the Sharingan, perceive the attacks and enhance his reflexes, making them even faster. With his honed combat skills, he can easily handle the onslaught of monsters. His blows, they are filled with hatred, unleashing all their fury upon them. Their gaze reflects pure hatred for not being with his daughter. With his body wounded but healing, the protagonist is left breathless. Lying on his back, he takes a deep breath. Holding the heads of the monsters in his hands, Soldier Suman calls out his name. With a serious expression, the young man simply waits for a signal in response. With tears in his eyes, our protagonist asks the question he most faffed. Pathetic, brought down by a malnourished and feeble man. After being shot multiple times, Seon-wan collapses. Fears whether his daughter Mina has disappeared. Soldier Sumin remains silent and averts his gaze, unable to respond. The lack of a response is enough to devastate our protagonist, who hangs his head. Sumin. She places a cloak around the young man's shoulders, attempting to comfort him as tears stream down her face. Our protagonist silently weeps over the perceived loss of his daughter. Suming simply looks away, knowing not what to say. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out Papa, reigniting his hope. They quickly turn to see who is calling him. The protagonist, still crying, is stunned into silence. Our young man's eyes widen in shock. He can barely process what's happening. There's Mina, his daughter, who he believed he had lost forever. The little girl cries. Desperately, she calls out for her father with a trembling voice. Without a second thought, the protagonist runs towards the girl. With every ounce of his strength and an emotionally charged cry, he runs as fast as he possibly can to reach his beloved daughter. The little girl continues to cry, with her arms outstretched, eagerly awaiting her father's embrace. Tears continue streaming down. That bastard grabs the girl and locks her away on the other side of the door. The zombies begin to surround his face as he gets closer and closer to her. Finally, he embraces her with all his might, unable to believe that this is actually real. With dirty hands and a tear-streaked face, he holds her tightly, afraid that she might just be a figment of his imagination. He cries as he embraces her. Private Suman also watches in disbelief. However, Suman realizes that it is not his daughter, but the child from that night, the boy who previously looked up to him as a father figure. They later return to the gas station where they had parted ways. For the last time, the protagonist remembers telling the boy that he needed to go and find his missing daughter, with a kind smile. He told her that Mean was a good boy and that he would understand the situation. The little girl nodded, even though he was saddened by their impending separation, but the boy reminds him of a promise that he couldn't break under any circumstances. Mai Jong reminds him of the promise that he and the protagonist's daughter would play together someday. The memory shows a happy image of the two of them, having fun like a small family. A slight smile appears on the young man's face as he remembers. In the memory, our boy confirms the promise, and little Mion celebrates happily. Boy from all directions. From the other side, the soldier reveals the twisted reason behind his betrayal. He quickly instructs the boy to go to the army outpost while he remains hidden with his men. The protagonist gestures for the child to be quiet, and the child understands, copying the gesture with a smile. They return to the blue truck. He tells Suming that he doesn't blame him and asks him to return to the base with the child. The soldier stays behind in silence, lowering his head, unable to face the protagonist. Remembering how he cried, he laments, saying that if he had acted sooner, none of this would have happened. Then he says that he could have avoided all of this if he had tried to stop it earlier. With his fist clenched, he declares that his mission is to find the protagonist's daughter, at any cost. Our protagonist listens silently with a serious expression, but soon a small smile of approval graces his lips, appears on his lips. The soldier suggests that they treat each other with more familiarity and call him Big Brother, or Sunan. He says he feels more comfortable that way, and the two embark together on their new mission. We return to the place where that cruel committed his atrocities. Meanwhile, the female cultist remains on the ground. Suddenly, her eye snaps open, revealing, for some unknown reason, children are immune to the virus that affects everyone else, and because of this, children are sold for a sinister red pupil, similar to the protagonist's. In another part of the city, the protagonist and the soldier, they continue their relentless search for Mina, stopping a survivor in the middle of the street to ask for information. Useful, but the cap-wearing thug seems to shake his head, unwilling to get too deeply involved. Without giving up, the duo continues their search through the city, looking for any clues about the girl and approaching another man in front of a gate, hoping he might know something. The two look at him intently. They return to their search in the blue truck, and arrive at a more secluded location. An old man says he hasn't seen any girls, but he has seen people who foot tattoos on a skull. Our young man asks where he can find them, and the man replies that they sold everything, even those people. Suming asks what happened, and the old man replies that he didn't get involved because they were all crazy. As they leave, the man invites them to a plaza, and Suming asks why. He explains that he deals with a group that has many children, and this could help them in their search. Our boy decides to stay and investigate, and he tells Suman to go get the motorcycle. Ridiculously high prices on the black market. Basically, humans are no better than these damned creatures. Suman starts the motorcycle, preparing to continue his search for information. The man warns him that it's dangerous to go alone, but our young protagonist responds that time is of the essence. Elsewhere in the city, the protagonist wields a large axe, felling the creature in his path with a single, precise blow that decapitates it, and the head rolls across the floor. With a cold gaze, he faces the situation head-on, showing no fear. At that moment, the man, wearing a cap, appears and says that he arrived just in the nick of time. The protagonist thanks him, but the thug tells them to get straight to the point. Suddenly, the man pulls out a gun and points it directly at the young man's head. It is revealed that this is a ambush with several armed men surrounding the protagonist. With an evil smile, the man says he will take the vehicle and all the supplies. Our guy asks what's going on, and the old man says he has to disappear forever. He asks if the soldier doesn't worry him, and the man replies that everything will be covered up. With the gun still pointed, he says the world now works like this, with no rules. But our young man simply smiles. Monsters in this era, or perhaps humans had always been the true monsters. Those words, showing that he isn't intimidated in the slightest. Suddenly, he picks up the monster's head that he just defeated. The man in the cap, looks disgusted and completely confused, holding his head in his hand. Our boy, he lifts her head into the air. The bully asks, "What are you doing with that?" Our protagonist holds the head up high, and suddenly, a shot pierces the monster's skull. Everyone is shocked by what just happened. At that moment, we see the truck. We flash back to the blue truck. On its way to where they are now, we are shown his conversation with Suman about not trusting anyone completely. Back in the present, our boy says he doesn't either. He didn't trust them even a little bit. He warns that there are snipers aiming at them from all sides and that he is being watching him. With that, he demands that they put all their weapons and ammunition into the truck. The man in the cap enters. He panics and asks him to forget everything, saying it was all a mistake. With a cold look, our young man calls him crazy and says he doesn't know what a mistake is. The thug offers information, but our boy repeats that he never trusted him. 1. They hit hard, especially as our protagonist is about to be massacred by zombies. His death isn't just. Of the henchman reveals that loud music is played every Saturday night in the concert hall. Echo. The man assures him that he'll find something there, but our protagonist deems the information worthless. The thug explains that with people scattered around, it's best to go to crowded places to gather information. Our boy seems to consider the new lead and remains silent for a moment, analyzing everything. Then they head to the Eco Concert Hall, a massive building. Our young man and the soldier cautiously enter. He finds it suspicious that there are no guards, and the soldier believes they've been tricked once again. Suddenly, music starts blasting throughout the place, volume, and both are completely shocked by what they see. Our protagonist tells Sumi to go back, but the soldier, he decides to infiltrate through the roof to provide cover. The young man insists that, considering the current situation, it's safer this way and that can provide backup if anything goes wrong. Our protagonist remains silent and appears to accept his companion's risky plan. Buddy. Meanwhile, the soldier Sumi opens a door that leads to the building's rooftop. Ascending the side, it's just a tragedy. It's an elaborate murder, the assassination of a Huitsu champion. Eventually, the zombies stares. He wonders why they're making so much noise, as it's attracting the infected. He continues cautiously through the concrete steps, unaware of what awaits him at the top. Upon reaching the upper floor, the soldier is taken aback by something, a group of monsters descending the stairs at high speed, as if keeping pace with a Linkin Park song. In a close-up, we see the bizarre faces of these creatures, with their black eyes and unsettling smiles. The soldier immediately realizes that everything was just a huge trap set for them. Meanwhile, our protagonist cautiously approaches a large red door, the source of the music. Carefully, he peeks through the crack to see what's happening inside the lounge. His eyes widen, shocked by the bizarre scene before him. On stage, a blonde girl dressed as Adel dances energetically to the blaring music. Incredulous, our young protagonist. He throws the doors wide open to get a better view of the spectacle. It turns out to be a full-blown concert, with an audience waving light sticks for the girl on stage. Our boy's expression is one of utter disbelief. He can't attack en masse, and just when it seems all is lost, he miraculously emerges from the pile, pushing those agile creatures comprehend what he's witnessing. Back on the stairs, the monsters walk past Soldier Suman, who believes that he would be attacked, and he takes a step back, but the monsters are already too close. Desperate, he screams as they attack him. The monsters advance. With no way to defend himself, Suming falls to the ground. The creatures pass right by him, pushing him aside. But something surprising happens to the soldier. The monsters do not attack him, they simply ignore him. He sits on the rough ground, completely confused, not understanding what just happened. With cold sweat on his face, he tries to process why they didn't attack him. The zombies are only running towards the music. Meanwhile, on the stage of concert, the bright lights continue to intensely illuminate the hall, where our protagonist remains. paralyzed, and she is quite pretty. Her eyes aren't red like the protagonist's, but rather a soft pink color. Pink. With a mischievous smile and a wink, she poses for the audience, who scream in wild excitement. The audience is made up of various monsters and infected individuals who are acting like fans completely obsessed with the idol. At that moment, our young man's eye. He receives the gold medal, becoming the world champion. But the moment he achieves his dream, it seems, aside. Not only that, he literally cuts those bastards down with a single wave of his hand. He walks, shines, and he realizes that he might be able to obtain information from the infected. With this idea in mind, he begins to walk towards a multitude of fearless monsters. He approaches a group and asks if they have seen people with 1,000-foot tattoos. One of the infected monsters seems to get annoyed with him, yelling that the music is too loud and that our boy is ruining Lucy's show. The protagonist can't believe it as the zombie keeps complaining that he is ruining the enjoyment of the concert, but another monster defends him, suggesting that maybe he's a new member of the Lou and Dream fan club. Losing his patience, our boy shouts that the show isn't important and that he needs to find someone. However, as he says that, he realizes he has made a huge mistake. The crowd of monsters stops looking at the stage and turns to glare at our boy with pure hatred. The monsters ask if he really just disrespected Lucy. From a catwalk, a soldier observes a rather peculiar concert. Peculiar. He thinks that not all infected are the same. There are those who simply follow their instincts without any intelligence. Towards the edge of the roof, his gaze fixed on the bastard who took his precious daughter. Something about him has changed. Some. Then, there are higher-level infected who can communicate and form societies. Finally, there are the special ones, like Sun, who possess unique powers. Therefore, it's not unusual for infected idols to exist as well. What the soldier doesn't understand is why San Juan is down there dancing with them. On stage, a group of infected girls perform a choreographed routine. The leader of the group, a blonde girl, strikes a final pose. She thinks she should act as if she were tired, even though she isn't. Suddenly, the protagonist interrupts the show, grabbing an infected person like Reen. He asks the crowd to calm down, saying that he didn't come to fight. Through a radio, his companion offers create an escape route, but he refuses because the boy doesn't want to cause any more trouble than necessary. The infected are surprised to hear him speak in human language. The idol, Lucy, approaches him and asks why he interrupts her performance. An angry fan shouts that the protagonist isn't a fan of Lucy. Juan tries to explain that he only wants to talk. The blonde girl stops her fans and asks him what he wants. He, forever. Possessing the Kakugan eye, like Ken Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul, this man watches the freak who kidnapped his. Says that he's looking for a group with skull and centipede tattoos. These guys stole something very valuable from him, and he believes that she can help you. One of the fans objects, saying that the newcomer insulted Lucy. Lucy smiles, stating that he receives a lot of love and needs to reciprocate it. The fan insists that they shouldn't help him because he isn't a true follower. The protagonist quickly declares that, from this moment on, he is Lucy's biggest fan. The infected person doesn't believe him and attacks, but Suwon sends him flying with a kick. With a serious look, he assures the idol that he is being serious. She believes him, saying that it's normal to fall in love with her at first sight, but to calm her fans, she asks him to prove that he is a true fan, a true follower. From above, the soldier observes the scene, understanding nothing. Lucy tells him that if he truly is his fan, he must know her choreographies. If he dances better than everyone else, she will recognize him as a true fan. The soldier is left in shock as he sees the protagonist preparing to dance. The boy begins to follow the steps, making cute poses. Moved, the soldier cries as he sees the image of a father sacrificing everything for his daughter. He knows, daughter. The moment he sees his beloved daughter, he discards all human limitations and leaps over the edge, like that all of this is to find Mina, and promises to tell her about her father's sacrifice. The other fans also. They are impressed and decide to help him if he finds himself in trouble. Just as the dance concludes, an infected old man approaches the stage and tells the protagonist that this isn't Lucy's dance, but that he should pay close attention. The old man assures him that what he is about to show him will be helpful someday. Using his suspenders, the old man performs a strange and powerful dance. The protagonist is shocked by the movements he witnesses. Upon finishing, the dancer tells him not to lose heart. He then turns to Lucy, stating that victory was never the important thing. The girl simply wanted to see everyone enjoying themselves together. The old man says goodbye and departs with his clones. Lucy sits down with the protagonist and confesses that she orchestrated the event to gather information. She confirms that the humans she is searching for are despicable beings, as they trade not only with humans, but also with infected individuals. He asks her if she knows their location. The girl agrees to reveal it to him if he answers her question. Lucy stares intently at him and asks if he truly possesses the ability to speak human language. They both, father who would do anything for his daughter. He throws himself from the rooftop. The soldiers below are confused, remain silent for a moment. The soldier, from his vantage point, believes that things have been resolved favorably. He believes that, now you can learn more thanks to Sean's communication skills. Suddenly, the elderly dancer leaps up and attacks Sean. The soldier is startled, grabbing his rifle. He observes the scene through his scope and debates whether he should provide supporting fire. He thinks that if he acts rashly, things could become complicated. He realizes that everything had been going well, but suddenly everything went wrong. Lucy asks Sean why he's acting this way, telling him that he did everything the way she wanted. The old man towers over Sean with a menacing look. Lucy, with a worried expression, furious, she reveals that he pretended to be her fan in order to deceive them, and warns him not to even think about escaping with his life. The protagonist wipes the blood from his mouth, and just from his stance, he knows this won't be easy. He attempts to reason with them, but Lucy accuses him of trying to buy time. The fighter attacks him with a kick, but the protagonist blocks it with difficulty. Meanwhile, the soldier is surrounded by infected, who relieve him of his weapon. One of them accidentally shoots, unable to comprehend whether the falling objects are infected or not. The unnerved soldier is shocked and the soldier and the others fall from the catwalk. Capitalizing on the distraction, the protagonist exchanges. He strikes the infected with the fighter, but the infected is too strong and knocks him down with a single blow. Lucy praises him. She praises his acting skills, saying that he almost fooled her. Defeated on the ground, the protagonist asks what they want from him. Lucy gets excited and offers to be his manager to attract human fans. He accepts on the condition that they guarantee the safety of his colleague. The girl smiles and says that she already asked her fans to make him a colleague. The protagonist realizes that they plan to turn the soldier into one of them. Lucy tells him that he shouldn't worry, as they will be free from aging and disease. Enraged, the protagonist tells him that they have crossed the line, gets up, and prepares to fight in earnest. The fighter brutally strikes him, but the boy withstands the attacks. Despite taking a beating, the protagonist doesn't give up. With his teeth broken, Lucy realizes that he possesses healing abilities. She thinks that even if he is special, he cannot defeat them, and tells him. A friend comments on how strange it is to see an infected person trying to kill themselves, but they don't realize that it's not a bird or a plane, it's to give up. He wonders if he has become weaker or if they are just too strong. At that moment, he remembers his life before the apocalypse. His wife asks him if he regrets quitting jiu-jitsu, and he assures her that she will support him no matter what he decides to do. He remembers that, in the past, jiu-jitsu was everything to him. He thinks that if he had given up in that final match, maybe he would still be competing, but if that had happened, he wouldn't have met his wife or his daughter. Now he has things that are much more precious than jiu-jitsu. His wife's voice snaps him out of his memories, telling him to get up. She reminds him that he has to go save Mina. Filled with newfound determination, the protagonist realizes he's been holding back and decides to use a dangerous technique he never dared to use in actual combat. From the ground, he tells his opponent not to act as if they've already won. With a defiant look, he assures them that he hasn't lost yet. The narration explains that defending against attacks is a survival instinct. Maintaining balance to avoid falling is also a natural movement. However, it's a man. Juan slams his arms into the nearby walls, stopping his momentum as much as possible. Hyutsu techniques cannot be handled by intuition alone. An opponent without knowledge of this art, martial arts can be defeated if the fight goes to the ground. Because of this advantage, the Huitsu used to be seen as the strongest. The boy in black lies on the ground, appearing to be defeated. He tells his opponent not to act as if he has already won. The narration explains that counter strategies are now known. Therefore, the Huitsu alone no longer makes you the strongest. It makes you the strongest, but if you assume your opponent doesn't understand this, then you will be the most powerful. The young man. On the ground, he stands up slightly and declares that he hasn't lost yet. The blonde girl looks at him with disgust and asks him not to use strange poses. She tells him that his flowery language gives her the creeps and makes her feel disgusted. The protagonist replies that if his opponent doesn't attack first, then he will. If the opponent doesn't go first, then he will. The masked wrestler looks at him, confused by his words. With one hand, the young man propels himself up from the ground. The girl is surprised to see the sudden and bizarre movement. He performs an acrobatic maneuver, spinning around in the air. The protagonist positions himself directly beneath his opponent, that he can, with his superhuman strength. Despite having done everything he could, the fall is hard and causes a loud. The blonde girl screams that it's horrible and disgusting, wishing he would be eliminated. The masked wrestler finds himself in a very strange fighting stance. In that state, his attack options are severely limited. He raises his leg, preparing to kick the boy on the ground. He suddenly stomps down hard on his opponent's face. The blonde girl smiles and says it would have been more comfortable for him if he had just stayed down. The young man replies that, in fact, he was lying down the whole time. The girl's expression changes as she realizes it was a trap. The masked fighter tries to break free from the grip with brute force. The narration explains that Hewitt's techniques cannot be driven by instinct alone. Although it may seem like he escaped danger purely by luck, countless traps still remain. The noose relentlessly tightens around the masked wrestler. The protagonist uses his grappling skills to drag his opponent towards the ground. Once the opponent is dragged down, the fight is essentially over. The boy dressed in black stands victoriously over his fallen enemy. The girl watches him with an expression that mixes surprise and shyness. The protagonist then addresses the crowd. Noise. For once, I'm glad to see there's a bit of physics in the story. Anyway, with a fall like that, and warns them not to approach him, stating that they are no match for him and would only be wasting their time. The blonde girl asks everyone to please return to their seats. The young man approaches her and poses one last question. Does she want to know if the companions who came with him are safe? The girl replies that she doesn't know, as she only heard a shot. She implies that it's probably not good news. Then, she tells him that she's going to tell him something interesting. The blonde reveals that, just like him, she also has special powers. She can control the new species that aren't intelligent. The protagonist stares intently at her, and she continues her explanation. He demands that she give him information about the people he's looking for, and warns him that he won't ask a second time. The young man tells him that if he cooperates, he will eliminate it painlessly. The girl smiles and says that she, Lucy, isn't finished talking yet. Suddenly, a new fighter appears behind the protagonist. The newcomer tells the young man that the fight isn't over yet. Finished. The protagonist turns and observes the new opponent, noticing that the man's hands don't look ordinary, that he also lost something. Sometime later, we see the champion working on a construction site. A colleague calls out to him to, like that, the creepy soldier and the ugly infected begin to think that he couldn't have survived. But the fighter says that if he had seen the fight, he would know that he is an expert in Hiuitsu. The boy in black prepares for the upcoming confrontation. Suddenly, the protagonist is ambushed with a swift and precise strike. The protagonist becomes covered in red liquid. Lucy remarks that people are deceived by her innocent appearance. She clarifies that she will not participate in the fight while brandishing some nunchucks. The girl warns the protagonist not to let his guard down around her. Meanwhile, Hiuitsu's fighter takes advantage of the distraction and punches him. The protagonist is knocked down to the ground yet again. Lucy continues to speak while he is lying on the ground. She explains that she cannot control friends with intelligence, but he can read their memories. The condition is that they must be unconscious, just as he is now. She offers him her help in finding the tattooed people. Lucy kneels beside him and places a hand on his face. She says that, even still, he doesn't seem to trust her. She smiles and whispers that she has never been wrong. However, the room falls into complete silence. Lucy continues pressing her face against his, and a tremor. A moment later, their faces hilariously fill with amazement. If you look in the background, you'll see that the other soldier appears as she does so. The zombies watch silently as we see our girl taking on an ominous appearance. Do you think he'll be able to read the protagonist's mind? If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and leave a comment. That would be really great. Being bitten by a zombie and still not even caring. Let's get back to the reason for their attention and amazement. It's our boy, running at an immense speed while shouting his daughter's name. The instant the disgusting soldier hears him, he realizes he messed with the wrong father. Seonhwan continues to advance unstoppably. Meanwhile, the soldier tries to use what little aim he has left with his gun to shoot the approaching zombie. But, honestly, the guy's aim is as bad as a stormtrooper, and he apparently can't hit a man running in a straight line. Not even once. The guy thinks he'll land at least one shot, but it's hopeless. Even his friend insults him for having such terrible aim that he shouldn't even bother trying. Instead, another soldier is tasked with shooting the zombie. The man takes aim, and I guess they went from stormtrooper level aiming to aiming. Go for a drink, but he says he needs to go home early. His brother-in-law insists, saying that he will talk to Seola from AOT because he shoots only once and brutally connects with Xiongban's shin. Unfortunately, being shot in such a vulnerable area, his speed is affected, but his persistence as a father remains strong. Too strong. At this point, even the soldiers begin to wonder if there is any infected, more determined, and stubborn than this one. It's the first time they've experienced something like this, but every time Mina shouts her father's name, Xiong, Juan advances furiously, ignoring his pain, single-mindedly focused on reaching his daughter. While the corporal continues to hold Mina down, the other soldier takes aim again, only this time he channels John Wick and connects with a critical headshot. The force of the impact shakes Seon Juan's head, but make no mistake, he won't go to hell until he makes sure his daughter is safe. Realizing that bullets are practically useless against this zombie, the soldiers decide to throw a grenade, knowing it will do considerable damage. Seon Juan runs so fast that he doesn't care about the approaching grenade, which explodes right in front of his face, raising a cloud of smoke. For him about it, the protagonist relents and asks if he's going to pay the bill. Walking together, his friend promises to treat him, and debris. For Mina, this is the worst scene imaginable, watching her father almost die before her eyes as she extends the hand, helpless. He cries silently as the vehicle drives away. The scene cuts to Seonggan, who is clearly gravely wounded, with his right arm completely torn off and his abdomen bleeding profusely. But even in his thoughts of agony, the only thing he can think about is his daughter. It doesn't take long for a group of infected to appear, surrounding his broken body, hoping to finish off what's left of him. They look at him like he's their prey, while Songgan's persistent body shakes from the stress. But hold on, this isn't fear, but evolution. Do you remember the store's mark, lost an arm? After losing his old one, our boy's body simply provides him with a new one. He basically gained Piccolo's regeneration ability from Dragon Ball Z. The infected are shocked as they witness his recovery, while Seong-wan clenches his fist. The scene shifts to a tender moment between the loving father and his daughter, as he remembers promising Mina that he would play with her. Even his daughter knew that her father would never break his promise.